Thank you all so much for those of you who have been downloading my podcast. So the podcast is the Rutledge Perspective Podcast. It is on all of the podcast platforms, and it's on Amazon Music too. So thank you. Still going to 5,000. Still got 4 days trying to get to 5,000 by the end of the year. Almost there. So thank you so much. Another one drops tomorrow, Wednesday. And it's the Happy New Year one. So make sure you do that. There are 2 groups that I have. One is already launched. It was called the Resource Community. It's now going to be called Leadership Transformation with Laurel. I will be making that public, so I'll be making some announcements. You can follow me on my Laurel Rutledge page. It's facebook.com/groups/the Rutledge Perspective. You can follow me on that page, and I'll be talking and making announcements about the groups. There's also going to be a new group coming in January that is Career Transformation with Laurel. So feel free to follow both of those. I'm going to be going in there live on a regular basis. I'll be putting in some tips and tricks in there, all kinds of stuff. There'll be some announcements in there on some group coaching things that I'm going to be doing. So lots of opportunity for us to connect and build community. I also have an empowerment village for women. So there's a Facebook community called the Empowerment Village. You can look for that. And just positive, let's just keep it moving forward, okay? So that's all the announcements. So before we get into the stuff today, I want to say hello to everybody who is watching. I see California, I see Houston, and then I see Morris Williams and Pristine Edie, but I don't know where y'all are. So thank y'all for watching on my Facebook page. Jerry, what else we got?
Houston, we have Kansas City, Missouri, Austin, Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Chicago, Corpus Christi, Charlotte, Philadelphia, St. Louis. Internationally, we have Paris, Port-au-Prince, Metel, Hamburg, Philippines, Germany, Cameroon, France, United Kingdom, Togo, Brazil, and Haiti.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So, good morning, buenos dias, bon dia, bonjour, good morning. See, what else can I say?
What up?
I think this, what up? Thank you guys so much for being on. I am just having the best time. Midland, Texas is here. Thank you, Midland. My good West Texas buddies. So I am always just so pleased to have y'all here and so honored and so just excited to spend this time with you. And so as we move into this last few days of 2020, I really want to focus on Happy New Year. Happy New Year. So 2020 was nuts. It was hard. It was ugly. It was painful. There was fear, there was anger, there was all of this madness. And we learned so much in 2020. And people stepped up. We learned how resilient we were in 2020. We learned how strong we were. We learned that all of those people that have been quiet for so long decided, I'm not being silent anymore. I will not be quiet. I will dissent. I will make good trouble. We did all of that in 2020. And so for 2021, it is time to take that and push it to the next level. And I know that's what I plan to do, and that's what I want you to do. And so here's what I want us to talk about today, what we're leaving behind and what we're pulling into 2020, because some of the things we talk about, and this really came to me as this last month was about reflection, right? This last month was about reflection and about celebration. And in that reflection and celebration, we talked about, even as hard as it was, there were so many things to celebrate. And even with all of the loss that we had, the fact that we can celebrate the fact that we had these people in our lives and we were able to experience them and we were able to love them and love on them, right? All of those things are beautiful and they're great to celebrate. And even celebrating learning, because it's not about failure. It's about what did you learn through that hardship. And so as I've reflected and got ready for 2021, and I put my posting out yesterday with the words for me. So my words last year were clarity, conviction, and compassion. I am absolutely keeping clarity. I'm also adding open-hearted. I'm adding open-hearted this year. And I'm keeping compassion and I'm keeping conviction, because we got to be convicted to continue to make things happen. So those are my words this year, because everybody tends to pick a word, and because I'm extra, I have to pick 3. But looking at this reflection of last year, the other thing that happens going into 2021, or every time we go into a new year, is everybody gets all fired up, right? I'm going to lose 400 pounds. I'm going to go to the gym every day. I'm going to eat healthy. All that stuff. We come out of the gate. The same thing with career and the same thing with business. We come out and we're like, hustle, hustle, grind, grind, move, move. I need you to take a breath and just pause. Because words matter, y'all. And we talk about that on this show. Words matter. And as I was reflecting and I think about the times during this year where I was like, oh man, what is wrong? Why can't I make this happen? Why can't I move faster? Why am I so tired? I was working 80 hours a week for somebody else getting a paycheck and I can't seem to work 30 for me. What is the problem? And what I realized is, especially in this age of social media and especially with the challenges that we had in all being online and on Zoom and all this kind of craziness, is it was even easier to start watching other people and listening to other people and comparing yourself to other people. And one of the things we do, and especially I see this a lot with women entrepreneurs, and in particular entrepreneurs of color, especially with the real movement towards building Black businesses, right? And building brown businesses, is you hear the words a lot: hustle, grind, move, dig in, make it happen, all of this kind of stuff. Well, everything has two sides of the coin. On the one hand, it is true. If it's worth having, it's worth working for. And things don't always just come easy. You do have to work for the things you want. But the other side of that coin is, if we're focused on hustle, hustle, grind, grind, move, move, just work harder, 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 we're kind of missing the point. And the point is, there is a why to what you're doing. There's a purpose to what you're doing. And at some point, you cannot work yourself. You can't outwork the work. My friend Tisa said that. She said her boss told her, you cannot outwork the work. And when we're constantly using grind, hustle, move, dig in, I'm going to be the hardest working person in the room, that's all good until it's not. Until you're the only person in the room that's still there at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week, and you're keeling over because you haven't taken care of you and you can't do what you want to do anyway. So I'm not saying don't work hard. We need to work hard. You need to dig in. You need to be focused. I'm saying working smarter, not harder. That the grind doesn't have to be a grind. That the hustle doesn't have to be hard. What has to happen is focus and intent and alignment. So when you start feeling that, we talked about that this year, when you start feeling that, oh, this just doesn't feel right, or I don't know why it's so hard for me to do this, I don't know why I can't engage in this, something isn't aligned. Something's not right. So take the time to pause. Because if you don't have time to do it right the first time, what makes you think you have time to do it over? So take the time to pause and understand, what is it that's making this feel wrong? What is this? I'm grinding, I'm hustling, I'm not getting any further, not even baby steps. Am I trying to be perfect? Am I more focused on making sure people know how hard I'm working than actually doing the work? Because that happens too. Especially in this age of social media. We want people to see we are everywhere. We're doing everything. We're talking to everybody. We're all of that stuff. And it is important that people know who you are, because you can't serve if nobody knows you're out there. And I know for me, my whole purpose in doing this and leaving what I left, a really good job, making really good money, all that title, all that kind of stuff that people tell us is important. And for many it is. It just turned out it wasn't for me. In moving through all of that, we realized that the real important thing is making sure that we are aligned, that we're doing what's important, that we're doing the stuff that matters and that serves. Because what we do is bigger than us. What we do is about who we serve and how we can impact those around us, positively or negatively. I'm just saying, right? So looking into this year, and I think about that whole idea of clarity and conviction and commitment, right? And open-heartedness. My intent is to start with me. To put my mask on first. There's a reason they say that on the plane, right? They always say if we lose cabin pressure, a mask will drop down. Be sure to put your mask on first before helping everybody else. That's not about being selfish. That's practical. Because if you don't put your mask on and you pass out, you can't help anybody else anyway. And they're going to have a hard time helping you because you're now all limp and all kinds of stuff, right? So I intend to ensure that I am on the top of my list, whatever that means. Whatever that means, right? Because you can't serve from an empty vessel. And it's important to put yourself at the top of the list so you're always aware when you're not aligned. Self-awareness is critical. And then once you're aware, you can take action, because awareness without action is just a nonsense, right? Why be aware and do nothing about it? Although that is a choice. So if you're going to take the time to be aware, then take the time to make a plan to take action. And that action may be to continue doing what you're doing, or that action may be, okay, this is not aligned. This does not feel good. I need to switch up. I need to change directions. I need to pivot. That was a big word in 2020. I'm going to try to find a different word other than pivot for 2021, because I think we all pivoted a lot in 2020.
Explain pivot real quick.
So if you think about pivot, and even people with, if you use a lot of Excel, right, and they talk pivot tables, basically what it means is changing direction, right? Like moving even on a fulcrum. So if you were going like flat, then you pivot and you go left or you go right, right? So a pivot doesn't mean necessarily 180 degrees. It means a pivot, a turn, right? Around an axis or around a center point. So generally when you pivot, and a lot of people pivoted in 2020 when business changed and you couldn't get together. A pivot was, instead of meetings in person, we still had meetings, but we had them on Zoom. That's a pivot. The center was having the meeting. The pivot was the way in which you had the meeting. So that pivot is a move around a center point, right? So maybe we can find a different word than pivot for 2021, because everybody was pivoting all over the place, right? So that's one of those I don't want. And normal, we got to find a different word than normal. All of those things. So 2021 for us is a year of just you, right? Happy You Year. What are you going to do in 2020, in 2021, that 2020 prepped you for? Because there was a lot of preparation in 2020. If you took the time over the last month to really reflect and to think about what you can celebrate, you will realize and see there was a lot that we learned. There was a lot that we gained. And remember the formula that we talked about, right? Facts, that's knowledge. That's knowledge. Experience, that's actually taking action on the facts, right? That's doing something with the facts that you learn. And that knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. So if we got some facts, because the truth does still matter despite what we heard in 2020, there is such a thing as facts and there is such a thing as truth. If you took that and then you did something and you learned something from that, you take all of that wisdom into 2021 so that you are ready to catapult to the next level. You are ready to impact differently. You're ready to show up differently. Or that wisdom told you that you are exactly where you need to be, and it's just about taking it up a notch in your same space with your same mechanism. Because that could be the truth too. Not everything is about change. Because sometimes you are doing exactly what you need to do, exactly in the space you need to do it in. And that's okay. Because sometimes we assume, or we get that pressure that we got to do different, we got to show up different, we got to make it different. I'm telling you, you got to do you, because everybody else is taken, as they say. So even when I look at 2020, some adjustments that I made, because I won't even say it was a pivot, some adjustments that I made, even on my site. My site was beautiful. I loved my website. It was me, it reflected me, all the colors and all this, it was great. But it didn't have my heart. It was very corporate still, right? And it was accurate. It talked about who I was and what I'd done and all that kind of stuff. But here's the thing, it didn't matter. None of that stuff matters. You can find this stuff on LinkedIn. Right? You can go to LinkedIn and see where I went to school and all that kind of stuff, because that's what LinkedIn does. But nobody cares about that. What they care about is what you know and how you can assist them. And so when you look at my page now, it's much more about me. It talks about, and about who I am and about how I can serve you. Right? And it says, yeah, I've done a bunch of stuff and I've seen a bunch of stuff, but that doesn't matter. It says that. Because I mean that, and that's what I would say. As opposed to, I've done this, and I've done this, and I've got this degree, and I've got all that stuff, and yeah, it matters, and I worked really hard to get it. But what's important about that is all of that stuff that I did helps me to help you, because at the end of the day, you've done a bunch of stuff too, and you know a bunch of stuff too. And so it's not about me, when we work together, me fixing you. It's about me taking everything I know and everything I've experienced to help you get to the stuff you already know, but it's just buried somewhere because we haven't been trained to get to that. Or we've been taught to just do what everybody else says we should do. So looking into 2021, what are the things that you learned? What are the things that you already know? The things that you already are that you're taking into 2021 that are going to serve you and those you want to serve better. Because it didn't go away just because 2020 was hard. In fact, I would argue that many of the things that were really great about you were enhanced in 2020. If you allowed them to be.
Laura.
Yes.
When you said, even with your LinkedIn and you changed your website and everything, like, I was thinking about the other day when I was listening to your podcast, I didn't know you had done so much. And it changed, not that I didn't respect you before.
Of
like,
course.
Get out
Yeah.
the way, look
Right.
But it changed my whole perspective of you. And so that is important because many people say, I don't really want to talk about myself.
Right.
But in this particular case, it's necessary to come with the receipts that you are knowledgeable, because the person that's looking for you wouldn't be able to find you if we didn't know that.
Right. No, and that's what's important. That has been a big learning. And for those of you who are like me, you know, those type A insecure overachievers, we have done a lot. And I've done a lot. I've seen a lot. I've been a lot of places. You know, there are things that I've done that make me uniquely me. Plus those gifts that just make me who I am, that enable me to connect dots that most people cannot connect. That's the gift that God gave me, right? That's not bragging. That's not arrogance. That just is what it is. And that is, and I have social proof of that because people have told me that, right? So that's just not me making something up. And it is that experience that I've had in corporate, moving through, running this gauntlet, dealing with all the madness, right? Speaking truth to power, regardless of what the consequences would be, that enable me to see and understand what you're doing and what you're going through and give you some potential solutions. That's why I don't call myself a coach. I call myself an advisor. Because I'm going to advise you on the situation that you're in, and we are going to make an actual plan to do something. We're not going to just sit back and coach about it. And please, I am not casting dispersions upon coaches, because there are some exceptional coaches out there. Just for me, it is much more about advisory services. For me and for the people I work with. Okay? So it's not just that coaching thing. It is really about deep dive into not only why you're doing what you're doing, but what do you want? What do you want? And then what are you going to do to get it? And for me, it's all about grace, because if you don't want to get it, that's okay with me too. It is no judgment for me. My job is not to tell you what job you should have. My job is not to tell you that you shouldn't be doing something. My job is to help you figure out what's important for you and then make a plan to get there and support you in making that happen. That's what I do.
Important thing. You said you're not a coach, but you consider yourself an advisor.
Yes.
And is the difference because you are given the advice, it's yours to receive or to reject, but you're going to move on after you give the advice, or is it the coach that is going to kind of be one-on-one with you every day trying to push you to do it? Is that the difference?
So there's a couple of differences. So there are a lot of people who are coaches and who are certified coaches, and that's really important, right? They go through a certain training there, and there is a process that certified coaches go through, kind of a standard process of coaching. And it's actually a really good process. It's a lot of question asking, it's a lot of deep diving, those kind of things. And I don't intend to go get certified as a coach, because I've been coaching a long time. And so I want to be very mindful. So one of the things for me is about knowledge and facts and truth. I want to be very mindful to not undermine those folks who have truly gone through a great deal of work to become certified coaches. So I don't want to in any way diminish that. But the other piece for me, and the reason I call it advisory services, is there is a lot of coaching in what I do in terms of assisting and teaching and mentoring people to get where they want to be. In the standard coaching process, there is very little advising, right? There's very little telling in coaching. In standard, like, you know, go by the book coaching, very little telling. And so in working with me, there is a great mix of questions and then speaking back and telling, here's what I heard, here's what you said, here's where those are disconnected, and here's what that means for you. And so in some coaching you get that, but in most coaching it's just about asking, almost a Socratic method. Just ask. And that's really good, and I'm all about asking why, but I'm also about moving quickly to get to some solutions. So when you work with me, it's a 3-month process. I'm not trying to coach you for 6 months, 12 months, 10 years. Now, if you want to, I'll absolutely do that. But my goal is in 3 months, we get you at least where you want to be.
Here's a question.
Sure.
Is the cost significant for such advice service?
I guess that depends on what you mean by significant.
Yeah. What's affordable to you, or what is
it depends on what's significant for you. And here's the thing about pricing. With any coach, right? With any coaching program. Understanding the timing of the program, understanding how much you're getting, understanding who you're getting, right? And what information you're getting from them and what expertise they have. So with me, you're getting someone who was in corporate for 30 years and who was in a senior executive role when I left. As a Black woman. One of only 2 at the time in a company of 17,000 with a global headquarters. You're getting someone with an MBA who finished that MBA overseas with 3 of her 4 classes in Spanish. You're getting someone who is going to speak truth to you in a way that is compassionate, because I don't believe you got to beat people up. And you're going to be working with somebody who understands and believes it's all about you. It's not about me. It's about you. So we're going to work on what you want and where you are and how you get there in the way that makes sense for you, because my words are not going to be your words. My feelings are not going to be your feelings, but I'm going to be able to see where you're disconnected and where you're misaligned. So it depends on, what your tolerance is. And I would say this, when people a lot of times will come, oh my gosh, it's really expensive. Coaching is really expensive. How much is it costing you now not to have someone that's going to get you where you are? It's a judgment call, y'all.
You said something. I had to get an electrician the other day to do something at my house, and I knew another guy who did electricity.
Right.
But this was an electrician.
Right.
And the cost was totally different.
Yes.
But what I paid for was his skill that after he did all the work, I knew the guy that I was going to get couldn't have done all of that.
Right.
And wouldn't have come with that kind of, what people say.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But you also said you have social
proof.
Social proof. Mm-hmm. Explain that.
So what you mean by social proof is things like referrals, like testimonials, like references. That's what social proof is, right? Some of that I post, some of that I don't. That gets back to that thing that Jerry just said. We don't toot our own horn enough, right? So you'll start seeing more and more of those things come up, because I forget to ask people when they work with me, hey, would you mind doing a review? Because that just feels weird. But here's the reality. But it's necessary, right? Because people want to know who's worked with them. And quite frankly, if you set up a call with me, because the first call is always free, because here's the thing for me as well. I am not for everybody. And I'm okay with that, because I believe there is someone for everyone. And so if we have a discussion and it looks like it's not a fit, I bet you I have someone in my network who is a fit for you. And I have no problem doing a referral to someone else, because it's not about me. It's about you. And if you are in need and I'm not the person that can help you, then let me figure out how to get you to someone who can. That's what it's about, because that comes back to you tenfold.
One more thing about the social proof, when you said that, because something dropped in my spirit earlier this morning. I said the help that's going to come now is going to come with proof. Yeah. It's going to come with receipts. Yes. And so it was important to me that when I did go back and look at your podcast or listen to your podcast, it was proof of what you did. Yeah. It was a written resume, and it made me say, okay, when I need that type of help, that's who I will call, because you could get that type of help. So help the people that are afraid to say, because now my new thing is just Google me, because you're paying for it. Right. You hear me joking and playing, but I come with a history. I come with a history of some accomplishment. Right. And so how do you get that across to people, for the people that are concerned about not trying to be arrogant? Right. So here's the deal, y'all. For those of you who have been listening to me for a long time, and for those of you who have known me a long time, so I see my friend Leela, who's on here, who's known me for over 20 years. We actually were in grad school in Spain together. And so here's the thing. I have learned over the years about myself that I just do what I do. And I've had so many assessments done. It's out the wazoo, right? And what always comes up for me is,
I am a really good leader and I can absolutely lead. I can take things over, but that's not my preference. I'm a collaborative person. I just assume us team up. Let's throw stuff against the wall, come up with the best solution, and just move forward. I don't have to be the one at the front. That's just not who I am. Here's the thing to know. Just what Jerry just said in asking her question. People cannot find you if you do not put yourself out there. People don't know who they're working with if you don't tell them. And stating facts is not arrogance. I did go to grad school and finish my degree in Spain. I did get a fellowship to one of the top MBA schools in the country. It was number 7 at the time, I think. Indiana University, Kelley School of Business. I was one of only 2 African Americans and African American females in senior leadership positions in a company of 17,000 globally. Those are facts. And so if you're stating facts, I would say work really hard to just get over it. It's the same thing with video. I hate being on camera, y'all. I hate it. But I had to go back and start doing more video because that's how people get to know you. That's how people connect with you. And I like connecting with people. I'm an introvert, but I do like connecting with people on a broader level. But you can't connect with them if you're not out there. And so when I look at video, and the reason I hate being on video is 'cause I hate watching myself, right? Why are your hands doing that? Why are your eyes doing that? Why, I'm all kinds of critical. And so I had to go back and say, okay, Laurel, but when you're reviewing a video, you're reviewing it for a message. Are you giving people the message you want to give them so that it can be received in a way that is helpful? That's the point. It's not about your hair. It's not about your eyelashes. It's not about any of that stuff. I mean, you don't want to look all kinds of crazy, but but it's not about that. It's about you. And sometimes you will see crazy because that's real. This is not an Instagram personality. This is not, all kinds of Photoshop and all that kind of stuff. Number one, I don't know how to do all that, right? I'm really good at just barely doing a filter that just takes the circles under my eyes. That's about all I can do, right? Because that's just about looking a little bit fresher. So for those of you who are afraid, take it from someone who has that fear. Just do it. Just do it. And then keep doing it. And make a commitment to yourself. Get convicted about showing up and just do it. Just do it. Because when you do, you will get feedback. So when I talk about social proof, for those of you who are listening for the first time, I'm from Odessa, Texas. And we had that shooting in Odessa, Texas in 2019. And I happened to be there. I was there with my mom. And after it happened, we had gone out that next day, I think to breakfast, or 2 days later or something to breakfast. And then I just had this thing come over me. And I wrote this piece called I'm from Odessa. And I wrote it for me. I wrote it for me. And I posted it on my personal page. And my personal page is still private. I have my public pages. Y'all can follow me. I'd love to follow you and get to know you. But my personal page is personal. And so I posted on my personal page. And a friend of mine saw it and said, Laurel, this is awesome. Can you make it shareable? And I said, sure. And then I didn't. Because I was like, yeah, I don't really want to, but I'm going to say yes, right? And about an hour later, I went back and said, so can you share it? Knowing I hadn't done anything. Knowing I hadn't done anything. She's like, no, it's still not public. And I thought, crap. Okay. Laurel, you said if you reached out again and she still wanted it, you would just share it. I made it public. Y'all, I got more engagement and more people coming at me and more people asking me questions and more people saying, oh my gosh, you said what I was feeling. This is what I meant. I remember that. I'm from Odessa. People all over the country. I'm from Odessa too. Oh my gosh, I remember that thing. Because I just allowed it to be public. It was my truth. I didn't adjust it. But I put it out there. It ended up being read on the news by the mayor. Right? So put it out there. The same thing happened after the George Floyd murder. I got online. I actually intended to go in a private group and go on for about 2 minutes. I accidentally went on my business page and I was on for 25. But it was my truth. The same thing happened. It was live, so it was video, so people saw me and I got pretty emotional. But it was true. And the same thing happened. I got more people reaching out to me saying, oh my gosh, this is what I felt. This is what I needed. I needed to hear that. Right? And so in my mind, going into 2021, I say to you, just do it. Just put it out there. Hell, put it out there and tag my business page. I'll go follow it. I'll give you some social proof. It's facebook.com/the Rutledge Perspective. Tag me. I'll give you social proof. I will say yes. I will click like. Put it out there. People need to know who you are. Show up on live. It doesn't have to be perfect because we are not perfect. Mm-hmm. And people are tired of seeing the perfect thing. That's why I was just having this conversation with somebody this morning. That's why people love reality shows, right? Because it's real. Well, it used to be more real than it is now. I won't say it's real now. But that's why people love some of that stuff, because they like to see somebody else's mess, right? Misery loves company. And we all got mess. But it makes us feel better when we see somebody else's mess is messier than our mess. So just put it out there. Don't try. I won't say don't, because that's not fair. Try to push through the fear. Just do it afraid. Just do it afraid. I still don't love doing video, but I do it. This going live, y'all have been live every week since March 3rd. Do y'all know how big that is for me? Every week since March 3rd, I have been live on Facebook. Really?
That's good.
But I'm loving it, and I'm loving spending time with you guys and connecting with you. And these questions, the engagement makes me happy because it enables us to have a conversation that's real and that's raw and that's true. And that's what you get here. On the Rutledge Perspective, we just speak the truth. And so I want you speaking truth to yourself, not just speaking truth to power, but you got to speak truth to you. Why are you afraid to tell people what you've done? Why are you afraid to toot your own horn? Why are you afraid to just give facts? Because facts is not arrogant.
Laura, can I say this though?
Yes.
On the flip side of that, when you said that, and I go into your podcast again,
Mm-hmm.
I'm throwing that podcast.
Right? I appreciate it.
Going to the Rutledge Perspective
Right.
podcast. But going to that, what if you would have put that out? There's a difference between stating your facts and padding your resume.
Yeah. Oh.
Now, tell the
Yeah.
seriousness side, because there are some people who have stated what they said were facts.
Yeah.
And in this social media world and this internet world,
Right.
everything is researchable.
Everything is researchable if people do the research. So here's the thing. I would suggest that you not pad your resume, especially if you are in a job search. If you are in a job search, or if you're trying to get people into your business, don't pad your resume. Don't pad what you've done. And here's the reason. Number one, it's not true. It's just a lie. So that's the bottom line. It's a lie. But here's the other thing. When people find out, and they will, you have completely undermined any kind of reputational respect you've gained because you lied. So now they can't trust you. They can't trust anything that you've said, because if you lied about that, what else have you lied about? Right? And so when you're in a job search and you go into an interview and they start asking you details, because good interviewers will dig into that stuff. And especially if you're saying you've claimed to do something that has some high technical pieces to it, those folks who have technical expertise will drum that out in a minute. So it's in your own best interest to just speak the truth. And here's the other thing, because people a lot of times will pad their resume because they see a job that they really want, and there's stuff in the job that they haven't done, so they pad their resume so it looks like they've done it. Here's some free advice from Laurel Rutledge Advisory Services. Here's some free advice. Look at what you have done and how that skill is transferable to the job that you want. That's the power. Because you may not have done that exact thing, but you've probably done something that gives you the skills that connect to that thing that they're looking for. So instead of spending your time trying to figure out how you can pad your resume, spend your time trying to figure out how your skills transfer. Because that's more powerful. Because that's the truth. And then you can speak to that. So you're looking for somebody who knows how to make, baskets underwater. I have never made baskets underwater, but what I have done is I have planted gardens underwater, which means I understand how you have to function underwater. And I can transfer that to the ability to continue to make baskets because I actually do have technical skills around making these other things, right? That's called using what you know and making it apply to what they're looking for.
Can we get a question from the
Yes,
studio audience?
please.
We have a studio audience today. Damien, Shadon Walker. Question for Laura.
How you doing, Ms. Rutledge?
I'm doing great, Damien. How are you?
Great content as well.
Thank you.
I want to go back to you were talking about an advisor and a coach.
Mm-hmm.
What lessons did you learn as an advisor, and what lessons did you learn as a coach to help you define you being an advisor?
Right. That's a really good question. So again, when you look at coaching, and I've done some coaching classes as well. I did some at Purdue University. And there are, again, in most coaching, especially for certified coaching, there is a structure that you follow around, almost like a funnel, right? How you ask questions and how you dig deeper, but it's all just about questions, right? And so I learned how to do that, but I've always been a person who's curious, so I asked a lot of questions. But I learned those structures around how to ask. But what I found through my experience was, yes, I can ask all of those questions, but people at some point get to a point where they need to know what to do. And so you can keep asking questions, but you got to figure out a way to ask questions that lead to actual action. And so that's why I call mine more advisory services, because yes, I'll ask you questions, and then we're going to talk about, okay, but what are you going to do about it? And let's talk about what that means. Because coaching will get to some of that, but it doesn't always get to a lot of that. Because it's not the same as like coaching for a sport, where coaches also become trainers and teachers, right? This kind of executive coaching really has much more to do with asking a lot of questions, putting up pictures, giving people an understanding around, situations, but not necessarily always digging deeper into, okay, now what are you going to do, and how do you do something different when you see it the next time? That's kind of the next level. And that gets really awfully close to walking that line between coaching and counseling, right? And so, and I don't call myself a counselor on purpose, because there are some legal things around being a counselor, right? You are a licensed counselor. So my advisory services walk that gray line between coaching someone to get somewhere and advising them, which sometimes brings in some counsel, right? And being a counselor or giving counsel to someone, as opposed to just kind of, hey, here's the things you should think about, right? Here's the things you need to consider, and then you kind of move on. I want you to consider it, and then we're going to do something about it, right? So that's kind of how I draw that line. And I should be really clear. I call it advisory service because that's my definition of advisory, right? And somebody else might define it differently, and they might define coaching differently.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a personal question.
Yeah.
I'm looking to get my MBA. Just got a call from the college right now, so I'll
Great.
answer later on. And getting your MBA, what was the greatest lesson that you learned to help you begin and flourish in your own business?
So, that's a good question. So let me talk about the MBA first. I knew coming out of undergrad I wanted to get an MBA. And I knew I wanted to go out of Texas to get my MBA, because I've been in Texas forever. I'm a native Texan, right? I knew I needed to get out. So if you can get out of Texas, get out of Texas, even if it's for a minute, and then come back. But you got to see something else. And I looked at all the schools, and I wanted to go to a school that had the highest level of average experience before somebody went in, because I knew the quality of the education would be different. Because it feels different if there are people that you're in class with who've actually done something outside of school, right? So I want a bigger percentage. So an MBA does not fundamentally make you smarter. What an MBA does is give you a different perspective, and that you can bring to the experiences that you have. That's the power of an MBA. And so what I found was, having worked, then gone to get my MBA, finishing it internationally, because that was a big piece too. I was only going to go to a place that I could do an exchange. Coming back into business, I was able to take that experience through the MBA program and translate that into what I was doing from a work perspective, and put everything in the context of people and behaviors and connection and processes. I'm a process thinker. And so my MBA was a design MBA. So I did operations and international business. So for me, everything is about processes. Even as I advise people, it's a process for me. And so what helped me with the MBA is it solidified that thinking around processes. It solidified that idea that it's all about connection and behavior, and how people think through things, because people come at things with a different perspective. That's the Rutledge perspective. And that's what kind of got me there. What made me start my own business was I had to get out of corporate. We could do a whole show about that. But for me, it was, the MBA has been a credential that is it's more than check the box. It's way more than check the box, because it was expensive, and it was a lot of time and effort. But it really they give me some exposure that I would never have had I not done an MBA. And that's the power of an MBA. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking questions.
Yes.
Thank you for being our studio audience.
Yes.
Do we have another one? Okay. So where are we? Because I always end up going over time. So I really want you guys to, if you're thinking about as you think about going into 2021, because we are all going to go into 2021 at the end of this year. At Friday, we are in 2021. Thank you. We are in 2021. Really, really, really consider, one, Standing strong and putting your mask on first. Put you on your list first. Go get that MBA, right? What is that thing that you've been putting off? And do that. Because as you, God, what was Robin's last name? I can't remember her last name. It's just, the woman who is Robin Hughes. As she said, mastery is money. So mastering your craft is important. So what is that thing you've been putting off that gives you that extra skill or that extra knowledge? And then let people know you got it. You know, I am going to get off my rear end and get my Spanish and my French back this year. I'm going to figure it out. Because I miss having it and I want to be able to serve people in multiple languages. And why not start with French? Because I learned it from the time I was little, and then Spanish because I finished my MBA in Spain. So let's just get them back. I'm so irritated with myself that I lost them, but I can sit in irritation or I can do something about it. So 2021 is the year to do something. So I encourage you, what is that thing you've been putting off? And just do that. Put it on the list. What are the skills that you have that no one else has? Or maybe other people have, but you're unique, so you do it differently. And call that out. How can you serve? How can you be someone that people can rely on and that can help people in a way that is needed? Because here's the deal. There are a lot, especially now you can see it, so many people coaching. And coaching is one of those things where anybody can just leave and put up their shingle and say, I'm a coach, right? Anybody can do that. But we are all different. And just because someone resonates with somebody else doesn't mean they're going to resonate with you. Or just because they resonate with you doesn't mean they're going to resonate with somebody else. There are billions of people on this planet, y'all. Billions. There is plenty for everyone. If your heart's desire is to do the thing, go do the thing. Just make sure you're mastering what you need to master to be able to do it effectively. And don't sell yourself short because you're looking at everybody else's hustle and grind and all that stuff we talked about in the very beginning of the show. Go define what hustle and grind mean for you and go do that. I look at the people that follow me and the people that resonate with me, and the people that follow me and resonate with me are not the people who are going to want to be constantly grind, hustle, hustle, in your face all the time, hard sell. That, you know what? Because I'm not going to do that. And so if that's what you need, I'm not the person. But if you need someone who is going to speak truth to you, who is going to be compassionate and who is going to care as much about your success, if not more than my own, then I'm your person. Who's going to hold up that mirror for you, because we all need somebody who's going to hold up a mirror. And I've got some amazing sister circles who do that for me. And we need somebody who's going to hold that up for us. And if that's what you need, call me, send me a message. I got you, right? Because with me, we're going to speak truth to power. We're going to give ourselves grace. We're going to be honest with ourselves and with others. I am your empowerment enthusiast, as I say on my website now, right? I'm going to empower you to do what you want to do, how you want to do it, whatever that looks like, because we are all different. And we all bring something to the table. And we don't have to be that other person we see on Instagram. And be careful what you're watching on Instagram. Because everything you see is not real. So you do you. In 2021, the you year 2021 is all about you and you doing you. Because you can't do anybody else. At least not well. You can't do them as well as they do them. So you may as well do you. Because that's where the power is. The power is in owning your power. Speaking your truth, not only to everyone else, but speaking your truth to you. Because if you can't tell yourself the truth, you're not going to be able to tell anybody else the truth. And sometimes the hardest thing we can do is tell ourselves the truth. Like I had to tell myself, okay, you say you want this last little bit of weight off, right? You say you want to get here. And you had cookies and cake and all this kind of stuff over the holiday. It's, it's okay. But just understand, if that's what you really want, then your actions need to support what you say you want. So I even told my trainer, I said, I saw somebody posted a clip of the new Janet Jackson video. Mm-hmm. Ooh, that woman. And so I told my trainer, I said, okay, so here's the deal. I was like, because I've got a picture of Serena Williams on my refrigerator as inspiration, because she's thick. But she's, you know what I mean? She's not a size 2. And she's not going to be. But she's fit and she's solid, right? So it's my inspiration. And then I saw Janet. What, she 55, 54, 55? Just had a baby. Got a 14 pack, you know. And I'm like, you know what? So I called my trainer. I said, okay, here's the deal. I said, I don't need a 14 pack. I know me well enough to know I am not willing to work that hard and be that disciplined to get there and sustain it. It is not sustainable for me. It's not realistic. But I know it is realistic. And I just need to get off my rear end. And I need you to help me hold myself accountable to make that happen. Because there is a place where I want to go. And it's not a size 2. I have no desire to do that. But I do have a desire to get the rest of this fat off to be healthy. Because I carry fat in those dangerous areas, right? If you're carrying fat in your belly, that's a dangerous area. And there's stuff that runs in my family. So this is about health first and aesthetics second. And so I told her, I said, I am willing to admit that I am not willing to do the work to be Kaja Fit or Janet Jackson or Serena Williams. I know me. I'm not willing to do that. But I am willing to pay attention to what I'm eating, to work harder, to do the mobility I need to do, to make sure that my joints and everything is working so I can be healthy and the fittest that I can be before my next photo shoot in February. So when you're going into 2021, what is it that you are desirous of and what are you willing to do to get it? And it's not about hustle and grind all the time. You got to decide what you want and be clear about that. And then you got to decide what you're willing to do to get it. Because if what you're willing to do to get it does not align with what it takes to get what you say you want, you might have to adjust what you say you want. And that's okay. We get caught up in this idea that if we said, I said I'm going to do A, and if I don't do A, I'm a failure. Well, no. It may be that A wasn't the thing you should have been doing in the first place. So we got to get out of our heads and telling ourselves that everything we don't achieve is a failure. Sometimes we don't achieve what we said because that wasn't the thing we really need to be working for in the first place. And you don't need to tell everybody everything you want. You got to tell you what you want. And don't be so caught up in, I saw a post today, you don't need to show everybody your money, right? Because those with real money don't look like they got real money. So you don't need to wear all your money. It's the same thing with everything else you're doing. Your goal, your desire, the thing you want more than anything, yeah, you need to have a level of confidence, a number of confidants around you who can help you get there. You need to know when to ask for help. You need to know where and how and when to get support because none of us gets through this life alone. But you don't have to tell everybody everything because that pressure is insane. And everybody doesn't have your best interest at heart. Even those people who may pretend to be your friends. So remember, if somebody is not supporting your dream, God didn't give it to them, he gave it to you. Right? So going into 2021, what is it that you want? What are you willing to do to get there? And if those are not aligned, you might need to adjust something. And that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about that. Just get real and clear on what you want. Because it's okay. Whatever it is, it's okay. And that's what I talk to people about. So I'm not going to tell you what you want. But I'm going to call out when you're misaligned. And then we're going to help you get to what you really want.
That's good. When you said that rich people, I was talking to a friend just yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I said, actually, the rich don't wear their clothes. They don't wear it on them. Mm-hmm. You would never know some people are wealthy.
You would never know.
I said, there's such a thing as church rich. We like to be church rich, wearing those suits and the red bottoms, and don't have our bills paid.
Right.
That's church.
Right.
That's a different rich. So that's very good, and it depends on how you really spend your money.
Yeah,
but Kathy is just reiterating what she said. She said there's a consequence for how you do you. She said, so true, I have to be careful how I do me.
Yes. Yes, we all have choices. We all have choices. And we are free to make these choices. We are not free from the consequences of the choices we make. And so one of the things I say, and you can listen to my podcast, it's called You Do You. I think it's one of the early ones. You should always be you. You should always be authentic. You should just bring your full self to wherever. And you should always be aware of the situation you're in. Because the you take to the family barbecue is not necessarily the you show up in the boardroom. Your demeanor changes, your language changes. You're still you. I'm not talking about the imposter syndrome and when we put on the mask and all that kind of stuff that so many of us who are people of color have to do to show up. right? We cannot necessarily bring our full selves to work. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about the deep microaggressions. What I'm talking about is understanding. It's kind of like, well, that's even hard to do now because not everybody dresses up to go to church and the theater or anything anymore. We've gotten to be such a casual society. But it's kind of understanding the difference in environment and how you dress for that environment, or how you act for that environment, or how you show up, right? So you always need to show up as you, because if you're not you, eventually that's just not going to work. It's something is going to happen to reveal who you really are. So you may as well show up as you in the first place. You just got to understand how much of you to show up. Not whether you show up as you, but how much of you shows up and what parts of you show up. Because not everybody's ready for all of you. And not all of you is appropriate for every situation.
You said something earlier, and I'm going along with this lady's comment, but you said something earlier about don't be afraid to post it, don't be afraid to show it, don't be afraid. And sometimes people don't do certain things because they think that that's being prideful or whatever.
Right.
But this whole pandemic time, I've been watching certain pastors on Facebook, and I've loved their openness to show how they're experiencing life and what they're doing at home. And this one pastor, she's talking about Pastor Ed Reynolds, he was out grilling on his barbecue pit. And it was so beautiful. And I complimented him. I said, man of God, I want that pit.
Yeah.
And I said it jokingly, but it was giving him a compliment.
Yeah.
He said, better yet, I won't give you my pit. I'll buy you one. So he ended up buying me the pit that I wanted. I thought, oh, thank God. So that was somebody exchanging.
Yeah.
But if we're afraid at looking at other people, oh, I can never have that. I can never do this. And never engage, you may be missing blessings and opportunities that you didn't know you could get.
Exactly.
Then she says, Pastor Ed Reynolds just preached that whatever we choose in life, we should choose wisely, because consequences follow whether good or bad.
Yes.
So whether we choose to compliment others, whether we choose not to put that about ourselves on Facebook, we could really be missing some opportunities.
We could. We are free to choose. We are not free from the consequences of our choices.
That's good.
Right? And so, again, knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. You know, looking at those facts, acting upon those facts and learning from those actions, that gives us wisdom. And so we have to show up as us, right? You have to do you. Put it out there. And here's the thing too. Really put out there whatever it is that you believe, right? Like I said, my personal page is private. There's stuff that I'll share on my personal page that's really, really deep that I just wouldn't share with anybody else. And there's family stuff that, you don't want everybody in the middle of your family. But there are other things that I've started sharing on LinkedIn or wherever, opinions, perspectives. And here's the thing. They are my opinion and my perspective. And if I'm the person you want to work with, you need to know that, because that's what I bring to the table, right? It's not that I'm being inauthentic. It's not that having a personal page that's private means that I'm hiding stuff and I'm not really me. No, you always get me because, y'all, I'm just tired. And I don't have the energy to be multiple people. I just don't. So don't be afraid to put out there the things that you feel you need to put out there. Just understand that when you do, you are going to get engagement, some good and some bad. And especially now in this culture that makes people free to say whatever because they have the anonymity of social media, just be ready. I remember the first time I put out some ads on Facebook, I didn't know what I was doing. I just boosted some posts. And I got all these trolls saying, we're going to go on your website and we're going to put all this bad stuff on your website. You don't know what you're doing. I mean, it was ugly. My heart was broken.
No.
And I remember talking to one of my coaches. They're like, yeah, just delete that. Just delete it and move on. Just block them and move on. And I said, really? And they said, look, the more you are out there, the more of that you're going to get. That's about them and not about you. Mm-hmm. Now that was a moment. And when I had that moment, I thought, you know what, that's true. Now, it still took a moment for me to just keep going. It just did. But it's important for us to understand that when you're going to put yourself out there, there are going to be people who agree and people who disagree. And some of the things I do is I'm like, so what's your perspective? So I take the fire out of it. Here's what I think. What say you? Because then I'm opening up the opportunity for people to say yay or nay. But I am asking them, as opposed to just putting my statement out there and just letting what comes. So if you're feeling some type of way about something you post, ask the question. Because then you are in control. You have said, I am allowing people who agree and people who disagree to come on this page or to react to this post. You're in control. And that's what it's about sometimes. We're afraid because we're afraid to lose control. We're afraid that somebody else is going to give our narrative. We're afraid that somebody else is going to tell our story. And that's just fear.
I just saw this the other day on Facebook where, and I'm not going to say her name, but a pastor lady made a comment about this guy that was in the media doing something real tacky. And you would think that it would only stay on her page because she's local. But he ended up getting word of it, and now it's before thousands and thousands of people.
Yeah.
And he said some harsh and ugly things. But these are the things that you said that we take a risk on every day because you don't know who's looking at what you put out there. So if you're scared about it, or you're going to get the clap back and you know you can't take the clap back.
And here's the deal. You don't know who's watching.
You don't.
I've had a few people come to me lately who I'm working with who are like, yeah, I've been watching you for a couple of years. And one of my coaches told me that a long time ago. They said, you need to continuously show up because there are people who will stalk you for years. And then when they finally work with you, they'll say, oh, I know I've been watching you for years. I just finally decided it was time. So again, if you're not out there, people can't find you. Just be authentic. Be you. Be real. Be ready. Because there will be people who are trolls. There'll be people who are just hateful to be hateful. I remember when my very first spotlight, I did a spotlight interview with one of my coaches and I put it out there and it was a good interview. I really enjoyed doing it and there was some good information. And for the most part, I got really great feedback. But I got one person, some guy, who said, because I think one of the things was, I was asking questions or saying something, and his only comment was, push away from the buffet table, question mark.
Oh, that's cool.
And I thought, and it hurt me at first, and then I went and looked and saw who it was, and I thought, number one, I don't know you, which means you don't know me. And number two, from what I'm seeing in your profile and the other things you post, you're not really happy right now, so I'm just going to ignore it. And so I just blocked him and moved on. So just know, you do have to have a level of thick skin if you're going to be in this social media realm. You do. You got to take everything as feedback. And if it's feedback that's valuable, good or bad, then you take that and you use it. And if it's not, if it's just hateful, then just delete it and block them. There are billions of people. You can block 200 or 300. You can block millions and still be all right. Just block them. Ban them, whatever, whichever platform you're on. And keep it moving. So, we're over again. With that, welcome to 2021, y'all. We have made it. We are resilient. We are strong. We have had an opportunity to learn. We have had an opportunity to grow. We have grieved. We have been angry. We have fought. We have fought back. And this is our time. 2021 is our time. And I encourage all of you to take it as such. It's an opportunity to start over. It's an opportunity to do you. It's an opportunity to not just give stuff up, because I stopped a long time ago giving stuff up for the new year. I make intentional moves forward and say what I'm going to do differently in the year. So I am going to put me on my list this year. I'm going to make some things happen. I'm going to continue to be visible and even more visible. So y'all are liable to get so sick of me because I'm going to work on being more and more visible. So I'm just telling you now. So don't make me ban you, y'all.
Do that pose like that on the poster.
Right, exactly. I'm gonna do another poster. Right. So it's going to be a good year because we're going to make it a good year. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be hard times. But we're going to make it a good year because if we made it through 2020, 2021 should be a piece of cake.
New York is saying Happy New Year to you. Sherry saying Happy New Year. Keep moving forward. What can we expect from the Rutledge Perspective, the radio show?
I cannot wait, right? So for January, we are going to be talking about this whole concept of hustle and grind. That's what I've decided we're going to talk about in January. But here's the thing. What you can expect from the Rutledge Perspective is that I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep showing up. Me and Jerry are going to keep hanging out.
That's right.
Hopefully in 2021, we'll be able to have more guests because I'd love to have some guests come in, actually in studio. So hopefully we'll be able to do that.
Yes.
You can also expect to continue with the podcast and continue with questions. I want you guys to ask questions. If there's something that you want me to cover, send it to me. Put it on my page, put it on Jerry's page. Just let me know, and I will make sure that I do my best to incorporate it. So you will keep seeing me show up. You'll keep seeing me speak the truth. You'll keep seeing me admit when I don't know what I'm talking about. You'll keep seeing me doing research. You'll keep seeing me pushing you to do your own research and to speak your own truth, because that's what we do on the Rutledge Perspective. Amen.
Great show.
Thank y'all. We'll see you next week. Have a wonderful and safe new year. Mask up.